The Redskins and Ron Rivera have come to terms. A 5-year deal, and we want a little reaction. 800-636-1067. So this was expected. In the last 24, 48 hours, they get rid of Bruce Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have hired a head coach in Ron Rivera, who had just 3 winning seasons in Carolina, took the team to the playoffs 4 times, did lead them to a Super Bowl. And we're wondering what you think about this. A 5-year deal. Is this too long of a commitment? Maybe it's standard in the NFL. And if you had to bet right now, will he have a successful run with the Redskins in these 5 years?
What determines success?
I think at least 2 playoff berths.
Okay.
If you get me to the playoffs 2 out of 5 years,
I would agree with that.
I would say successful, particularly given the history of this team where they make the playoffs about once every 5 or 6 years over the last 20-plus years. That's kind of been what's happened. You know, they made the playoffs once under Gruden in 6 seasons. They made the playoffs once under Shanahan.
Right.
They never made it under Spurrier or Zorn.
Twice under Gibbs.
And twice under Gibbs.
Yeah, you're right.
That's basically your last 20 years.
Yeah. How do you grade the hire? You're not as high as I am.
I think it's a solid B.
Okay.
I think when you use the word solid, I do think it's solid. I think he's going to bring a level of competence. I think you're going to feel like they're a prepared team. I don't think you're going to hear the stuff from insiders like Chris Russell when he was always calling it Club J.
Yeah.
And you definitely, from the comments that Callahan made last week, Callahan definitely was on a different page than Jay Gruden, but he just wasn't the head coach. And so when Callahan took over, he felt like he needed to make certain moves with the way they practiced, the way that they worked. I don't think you're going to have those same questions from Rivera. My reservation comes from just some of the little things that we have heard just in the last couple of weeks about Daniel Snyder, like it's in the equation.
But if he lets Rivera do his own thing, see, I would be lukewarm on the hire if Allen was still in play.
Right.
Okay, but now that Allen is gone, I'm going to give them a better chance of being successful. Unless Snyder is just the same old Snyder and he's going to be meddling, like you said. But if he steps back and lets Rivera do his thing, hire his own guys, then I'd give this a better grade. But we'll have to wait and see.
I should be more precise because he's got some Puerto Rican in him.
That's right, he does.
Let's go to our pal Craig Hoffman, Redskins beat reporter for 106.7 The Fan. Get his take before we get to the phones, which are already lighting up. 800-636-1067 if you want to chime in with your take on this move. What's up, Craig?
Morning, boys. How are you?
So 5 years for Ron Rivera.
How do you grade it?
How much of a curve am I giving because of how the last decade has gone? I don't say that to be like snarky. That's a legitimate question.
Well, like I just said, I would be more lukewarm on it if Bruce Allen was still in play and making the decisions. But now I think you got to wipe the slate clean, start from scratch, and assume that everything's going to be different in terms of the decision making. So how would you grade the hire?
So, like, if Bill Belichick is an A+, like Ron Rivera is a BB+. He's a really good coach. And I think in a lot of ways, and we put out a column that I wrote yesterday on thefandc.com, that he is the right coach at the right time. Is he the top echelon, super elite NFL head coach? He hasn't proven that in 9 years in Carolina, but he proved that he can get to that level. Obviously, he coached in a Super Bowl, and he proved he can be consistent over time. But what I think is really good, and why I would say overall it's an A hire, is with the stain that is this organization right now, I think this is as good as you can do. And not to mention, I don't know that there are better candidates necessarily on the market unless you want to take a really aggressive swing at a guy like a Matt Rule coming out of college who's not proven it at the NFL level. So I think that for Rivera, why I like the hire and why it's a B+ A level hire is he brings structure and discipline through an approach that is the polar opposite of what Bruce Allen was. Bruce is cold and calculated and political. Ron is demanding, but through empathy and honestly love for his players. And so I think that dramatically different culture will lead to more success here, and why I think it's also, because of the contrast, the right hire at the right time.
Yeah, I'm not going to put it up there with the Shanahan hire because Shanahan had a better resume. He won Super Bowls, but Shanahan also had to deal with Bruce Allen. So now that Rivera doesn't have to deal with that nonsense, I think he's got a better shot. I'm not saying he's going to win divisions every year, and I have no idea what he's going to do over 5 years. Like JP said, I think success will be determined on at least 2 of the 5 going to the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to be next year in his second playoffs. But I would say at least 2 of the 5 you got to go to the playoffs to determine success. I know that's difficult to predict, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too about Shanahan is like he won 2 Super Bowls with Hall of Fame quarterback and running back.
Correct.
And a Hall of Famer at safety. And am I forgetting any other Hall of Famers on that team?
Probably. Yeah.
Atwater was really good. Like they had
great
dudes
players
on those teams.
Great players.
So and the question is like, what's a good coach without good players? Well, how many Hall of Famers has Belichick coached over the years? Well, he's got the same one at quarterback for the last 20, not to mention a couple of others. So. It's always going to be dependent on players, and the talent that they have here is pretty good. I don't know if they have any Hall of Famers on this roster, but they got really good players. Like Daron Payne's a freaking beast. Like that kid's awesome. John Allen's really good. Matt Ioannidis is really good. Quentin Dunbar this year should have made the Pro Bowl. Landon Collins is really, really good. So there's enough here that he's set up that if they bring in a couple more, they get some of his guys in here, and he can do the culture stuff that he needs to. And the biggest question, of course, is what happens with Haskins. How does he develop? But if he develops okay, then you are looking at, you should make the playoffs 2 of the next 5 years.